The Honourable SABINA CHEGE, nominated Member of Parliament, is here with us this morning and sits in the hot seat of the Situation Room. Mheshimiwa, good morning.
Morning to you. How are you?
Very well, thank you. Good to have you here.
It's good to see you, and Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. I haven't seen you this year. This is true. And we're already going into April.
Imagine. 1/4 of the year is gone.
It's already gone. And in that 3 months, so many things have happened. And we'll be looking at some of those things and getting insights as we enter into this conversation this hour, necessary for us to do at some point, whether we like it or not. CT normally is here, as you know, and CT normally shares a proverb with us, but CT had, something that he had to go and do today. So he was here earlier, but then had to leave. Okay. But he's left a proverb, and we'd like to tell you what that proverb is and then see how you would interpret that for us as we start.
Okay.
All right.
Yes. And he's delegated me the opportunity. His shoes are big to fill, but anyway, I'm here for it. So the proverb of the day comes from the Islamic Republic of Mauritania. And the proverb goes as, before you eat, open your mouth. Before you eat, open your mouth. How would you interpret that?
I'll say just maybe also the same. Before you speak, think twice. That's what I think. Because there's no way you would eat without your mouth open, but sometimes we speak without thinking. So I'll just twist it to before you speak, think twice.
Yeah, before you speak, think twice.
Proverb responding to a proverb.
Yeah.
Indeed.
Nice.
Indeed. So, we've had you in the chair in certain situations whereby there were certain things, whether it was dealing with party politics, internal party wrangles, or whether it was looking at what we wanted to be done and look for a leader for coming from Mount Kenya. Mount Kenya has always been the reference point for so many things when it comes to this Kenya's politics, whether we're talking about the numbers or we're talking just about the political gravitas that this particular region has, whether we're talking about who the ringleader is going to be, whether we're talking about whether there will be representation at, the national level, whether there will be a candidate, so many things come into play. And even with those thoughts, so many things have changed. In 2 months, we've seen huge change around the politics. And Mount Kenya always seems to be part of the variables for that formula. From where you sit now and for all the things that you've seen passing before your eyes over the last 8 weeks, where are your thoughts around this, Mheshimiwa?
Well, I'll say at some point in the alignment, Mount Kenya seemed to be the loser or losing part of the positions that were allocated in government. After the Gen Z, after the realignment that happened, we lost the position of the CS Treasury. And then after that, there was also a lot of anticipation when the changes were coming for the PSs, but we thank God that we actually got an additional PS. And yesterday again, what happened, we got CS Muturi being replaced by his party member, Okoh. Honorable Okoh, who is also member of parliament from the same locality. So that was quite some, I'll say, balancing. But what we are suffering from is Mount Kenya after Uhuru. There was no passing of the baton. That's what I would say. And there was no mentorship. And I want to take you back when we had the President Kibaki, and when his time came, it was not him who spoke, but he had some wazes, some old friends of his who were also in the cabinet, and he used then the minister, the late John Mishuki, to say, if you want to come to Central Kenya, the only person you need to speak to, or the person who is going to take up leadership, is going to be the Honorable Uhuru Kenyatta. But when we got to the 2022, there was a bit of some split. There was a bit of people leaving the Jubilee Party then, which was the party that was seemed to be the party for Mount Kenya. And so by the time the former president left, he didn't really mentor, he didn't really give somebody or pass the baton or even use his allies to build. And what happened immediately after 2022, and I would like to give my own personal experience, especially in Jubilee, we started having the wrangles and pull and push. And we kind of lost leadership. We tried to talk to the former president. We tried to ask him to come and bring us together. But what happened? We ended up going to courts. That really was not what we anticipated for. That's not what we would have wanted. And so when the people who are in UDA now went to government, remember there was also a pull and push between who was to become the deputy president then, if you had to go back to 2022. There was a battle between then the current deputy president, Honorable Kithure Kindiki, and also then the Mathira MP, who now became the deputy president, who is now out, Honorable Rigathi Gachagua.
Yeah.
And so we saw there was no... the Mount Kenya also, as they went to UDA, they were not united. They didn't unanimously agree on a candidate that they said this was our person. And remember, the current president went out to select a person he felt maybe this is a person I would have worked with. And 1 year and a half down the line, they couldn't really work. And so again, he went out and selected another person who was by then the preference of the Mount Kenya MPs who were in UDA then, and confirmed what they had chosen earlier. And so this was just a matter of now exchange. This is what you had asked for. I've given what you have asked for. So Professor Kithure Kindiki currently as the deputy president, I would say he's trying. He has tried to call the leaders. Personally have participated in like 3 meetings, which is the meeting of the leaders from the mountain. And he has tried to bring people together, even the people who were not together by the time the mountain split because of the, when the deputy president was leaving. There are people who supported him, others didn't support him, but he has brought everybody together. And the 2 meetings that the 3 I've participated in, he has called people, and his meetings are issue-based. The first meeting we went was about the coffee and the coffee reforms, and we had several way forwards, and we had allocations of what to be done by the members of parliament, by the senators. And he has also started meeting people from their various regions, and especially the counties from Mount Kenya. Though he has also met people from the other areas, other counties. But we have seen, like, he has not met Murang'a County, he has not met... I think Nyandarua, Nyeri, and Kirinyaga. But he has met majority of the county and the leadership and the opinion leaders, just to try and get the feel, because majority of the leaders, they would say, what is tunasikiza ground? What is the ground saying? But there was a bit of people feeling that there are projects that were started that they were never done, or there were promises that were made that were never fulfilled. And so that is what he's trying to gather now, and to see then what is our priority, where are we? Because after the finance bill failed, many promises that were given then by the current president, they were not able to be achieved. And so... And then there also, when the whole thing came up, there were also some people who are talking also from other regions, saying the development was only going to Mount Kenya. So there's a time we need to share, all of us. But I would say also the children, the people from Mount Kenya, not people from the lesser God, they're also Kenyans. And so they also deserve projects that were promised to be done, projects that were started to be finished. And we understand we might be the majority, but we're not the only Kenyans. And we have been there, we have shared with people. And so the biggest gap came on the leadership. And without having a person who was the leader or who was trusted leader, because when the former deputy president came in, he was a bit combative. He actually started fighting with his own members of parliament. There was no agreement. And now with the when the former president also left us, even the people in Jubilee Party, we were left without a leader. We were left grumbling, is it Kanini Kega, who is the SG, is it Kioni, is it Sabina, is it who? So there was also a lot of confusion. But I think it's a wake-up call for the people of the mountain. And at this point, and especially when we are preparing for the president to come, it is not a time for us to do the blame game. It's a time for us, because we are at half-term now. We only have now 2 years to go. Then we go to the next election. And also a lesson to the voters of the mountain region, that we should not be voting for people because of whom they support, because of emotions or who they sent away or something like that. But we should be looking at the people who can be able to work for us, who can be able to, go to parliament and represent us in the best way possible. We have members of parliament, before we even look at the national level, we have the members of parliament who are taking 200 million per year, and it's supposed to go to the ground. And apart from that 200 million per year with the energy CDF, there's also money that comes through maybe the roads, Kera. There's also money that comes through the rural electrification. There's a lot of money that comes in. So how are we managing this? Before we even say we had projects that are big projects, like for instance, in our area, we are looking at Mau Mau.
Yeah.
That was started, that had stalled, that now they have started again. We have started seeing the contractor coming down. But what is the role of the MP? Every other governor. I saw when the former deputy president left, there are several governors who came to parliament and they were trying to, lobby and ask members of parliament to support them also to take the position of the deputy president. And there was a lot of money moving around. So the big question is, some of them, when they were doing the campaign, there was no money. So where did this money come from? So we need to start asking ourselves, if we have 6.5 billion or 7 billion coming to Murang'a County, what can we see on the ground? Before we look at the national level, what we can be able to share as a national cake. There's money coming, so you ask your MCA. I always say there were 6 people on the ballot. So there is what the MCA said they're going to do. There's what the MP said he's going to do. There's a governor, there's a senator, there's a woman rep, before we even get to the presidency. Because at the presidency, this is a national level where every other Kenyan feel we need to have the share of the cake.
Right.
The whole debate of, when it came in on whether it's about the population, whether it's about the kilometers, whether it's about the least developed area. And you see, if you look at the least developed areas, you'll find that these areas, when there is equalization fund, they get more money. When there's the issue of even the counties, they also, some of them, like if you look at like some counties, they also get a lot of money.
But I need to ask you though, then, Mahesh, that these issues that you speak of, the issues that you speak of about the need for development, and these are issues that are synonymous with anybody else in the country.
That's true.
Any other region in the country, people in the country have the same problems. But we seem to hear this loudest coming from the mountain all the time when we're talking about it's a voice that needs to be heard. So why should it matter more from one region to the other?
I would say, basically the central Kenya has a huge population. So the demands are also high, and maybe their voices are amplified because they are the majority. But that doesn't mean that the minority cannot be heard. Personally, when I was doing my campaign, and I thank God that I was actually with Azimio, because I got a chance to go to the other side of the country and see
understand.
And I was telling people, as late as, I think, late last year, was early this year actually, when we went for the burial of the father of our Speaker of National Assembly. I was shocked to find that in Bungoma County, we have a lot of mud houses, actually a shopping center, a whole shopping center that is made of mud. In central Kenya, maybe this is something that was unheard of, or things that we have managed to, I think
because attention was given in this area, and so that development took place.
I don't think it's the attention that was given, but I will tell you my experience when I was a young person. We used to have coffee and tea, and I was brought up by tea. My mother, we would wake up in the morning, pick tea, go to school, come back home, also pick tea that we'll keep for the night. And we worked very hard. We farmed. And when I was going to high school, what my mother could do, you were given a check to go. We never used to have CDF. We were given a check from the tea. We used to have tea bonuses by December. So once you were given a check, whether you will go with Aremis as your whatever, or you'll just cut a piece of bar soup and go to school. But our parents worked so hard. So what happened? The tea and the cash crops, I would say, in central Kenya has made the people improve their lifestyles. That is where people would get a loan even from the bank and build a decent house.
Are you saying this did not happen in other parts of the country?
I doubt. I think some of the areas like
did people not work hard in other parts?
It's not that they didn't work hard. You see, it depends with the cash crop that was there before. And I would say the advantage of Mount Kenya was that I want to single out tea and coffee, which again at some point, after our generation, at some point there's a time that the tea and coffee prices went down. And I can tell you, we have a generation in central Kenya that has also not gone to school. That's what happened. And I can compare. Then look at if we look at the agriculture as a backbone of any nation, the issue of like avocados, where did they start from? In central Kenya. And I'm happy that other areas, we have started seeing them growing coffee. The areas that never grew coffee, or they didn't believe that the coffee will grow in their areas, we have now seen avocados almost being planted everywhere. And this is a cash crop. So economic empowerment is very important, not necessarily because the government has supported you. Because I will tell you, I never knew my member of parliament. I never got CDF, But we worked through that tea, and the areas at the lower side of Central Kenya that grow coffee, they were able to improve. What am I saying? Even when we are doing the planning of the government, even today, we need to look at those areas. And I'm a member of Agriculture Committee.
Yeah.
And when I met my minister, and now we have Mutahi Kagwe, and I was telling him, if you say agriculture is the backbone of any nation, then we need to see, even budgeting, we need to see things done differently. We need to look at our nation and actually do a map up and say, so what can grow, what can do well in the Western region? Then let's put our money there. What can do well at the coastal region? Because we don't have, not all crops grow in the same areas. What can do well? I have just discovered, I've become a farmer, I just discovered that apples are doing very well. And we have an innovation from a guy who was actually a mechanic called Wambogo, who has started Wambogo apples. I traveled all the way to Laikipia. I went to the farm, I have learned, I've started farming apples in my small farm in Murang'a County. So let us hold hands. When I went to Nyanza, and when I found that there was no clean water, and somebody tells you we don't have clean water because we have never supported the government, because we have always been in opposition. And that is my worry even for my own people of Mount Kenya. I'm like, do you want to go to the opposition then? And then you will not get the benefits of the government, which is really unfair, because this is how we work. That once you support the government, there's something that comes with it. Once you're out of the government, then somehow the priority is given to the people who are in government. And what I want to say here, even as a family, you have your children. There's a child that you'll see every day who is very obedient, and there's one who will go there, will not go to school, will go clubbing and whatever else. When you're dividing everything, it doesn't happen at the same time. But what I would say, as a mountain, it is a high time we are at halftime. It's a high time we have a reflection where we have come from. God has been faithful to us. We have had presidents who have come from our region, but I see like we have taken it for granted. Even our numbers that we have today, I would say we have taken it for granted. We need to leverage yes on our numbers, but also appreciate that there are other people who exist in this country, that we can be able to share our resources equally. And when we have a president who is not from our region, it doesn't mean that we will not get the benefits. Let us not be the people who are fighting all the time.
Let's get to, you mentioned Bungoma County, and one thing that stands out with Bungoma County is the fact that pan pepper, as we've all known it, is in Bungoma County, and that was one big economic activity that took place in Bungoma County, and which grew Bungoma County. That's just for conversation's sake. But even as we talk about the government as it is, and about Mount Kenya, we talk about the Jubilee Party, and that is a party that was considered to come from the mountain. But it is, again, the members of the party who walked away from Jubilee. You know, and as still, you mentioned about the Wazees coming, sitting together. But I remember Limuru 3, when former President Uhuru Kenyatta was having meetings with members from Mount Kenya with regard to how to move forward. But then again, it's people who walked out of him. But even as we talk about that, let's talk about positions in government. You talk about treasury that was taken away from Mount Kenya. Is it a preserve of Mount Kenya? Because these are positions that are supposed to work for the common man, for the 55 million people who work in this country. Why does it feel as though positions should be a preserve of a specific region and not for other regions? Yet again, the government is supposed to have the face of Kenya.
I would say it is not a preserve of Mount Kenya, but we had Professor Ndungu, who was a professional, who was initially there in Central Bank, and it was the president who gave him the position.
But I also want to say, is it wrong?
I'm not saying it is wrong, but I've said, if you look at the realignment, who have been the biggest losers? It's Central Kenya. Because if then you take Professor Ndungu and you don't have to be in Treasury and then give it to Honorable Bandi, who replaced him and where? That was a point where I would say, and he comes from Murang'a County, so let me also disclose my interest, that we had 2 CSs, now we have 1.
Where does meritocracy come in when it comes to those positions?
Professor Ndungu was very qualified, but I also want to say I am very, very impressed by what the current CS is doing. Honorable Bandi is doing a fantastic job. I am very happy with him, and especially, this is one thing I've also learned with the William Ruto government, that he has learned to trust politicians. At some point, we were unemployable. You were only a politician, and especially when the new constitution came, and politicians could not become cabinet secretaries. So once you are a politician, once your term ends, now you go home. Like, politicians were not even, we have politicians who are doctors, we have politicians who are professionals. We have politicians who are very well qualified, but we have seen John Bundy coming up, not only doing good at whatever he's doing, but also engaging the people, because what I've seen in Kenya is a lot of miscommunication.
So it's not a loss. So it's not a loss for the mountain, but it's a gain for the country.
It is
which essentially what
I've
should be
said. It's
looked
not
at.
a loss because of the position of Mount Kenya. I've only said if we had 2 CSs in Murang'a, now we have 1. That's what I said about what the losses that have happened. Not because of the position. Anybody can become, so long as you are well qualified and you can serve the nation. And I've said, personally, I've even gone on record congratulating Honorable Bundy, and especially demystifying, issues about finances. Somehow they tend to be very complex. And even the finance bill, I am very sure, if we had Honorable Bundy then, he would have taken time to explain to the people and even come into a conclusion when there was public participation. Right now, I've seen him several times going into, it's called Bunge la Mwananchi, interacting with that person and demystifying the whole issue of finance, the whole issue of, budgets and everything else. And he has gone in and interacted with people. That's what we need.
So that
and even in this government, what we need is communication. I am one person who feels that maybe majority of the CSs and the PSs, they sit in their offices and they don't really care about communicating what they are doing to the public. Number 2, members of parliament, if you're not in a specific committee, if you'll only participate when a bill comes on the floor of the house, you might not have all the information because a lot of work is done at the committee level. And the committee has maybe 17 people per committee. So if that, then the bill is not well explained, and the time, especially in the National Assembly, that is given, the mover of a bill is given around 15 minutes or 20 minutes. The leader of majority again gets 10 minutes. The rest of the members of parliament, you can only get sometimes 5 minutes when it's on the maximum, but sometimes you'll even be told 2 minutes. So people are not able to articulate issues very well on the floor of the House. And so the ministers, and especially the cabinet secretaries, need to take up. They need to come to these studios and not shy away. They need to come to the public. They need to come to the media and give the government position. What has happened with this current government and why it seems to be a government on an uphill task? It is because it is the president talking alone.
Yes, and even when we talk about the conversation taking a shift, one would assume that with the way the government is there for the people. It's the government by the people for the people, right? And even while at it, there is a feeling out there that if you ask any Kenyan who is at the seat as a cabinet secretary or not, they would tell you we don't really care who is there. What we care about is the job done to them, delivered as promised. But feels as though it is the politicians who are pushing the agenda of we need these positions in our area. Politics is politics. But why would it be pegged on tribalism? Feels as though politicians are peddling tribalism vis-a-vis work being done.
Unfortunately, when governments are formed, there are agreements that are done. Unfortunately. And somehow after every 5 years we go back to our regions, and then people come in with what are you bringing on the table. And so when you say I'm bringing these numbers, then there's always a promise of this is what you're going to get. And I think we've had that conversation before, where we have had people saying after the elections, ulituruka, this is what we had agreed, this is not what you delivered, and that is how, unfortunately, our politics are shaped. And so tribalism. It is because they look at numbers, and of course these numbers unfortunately also comes from tribes. And so when you come in and say I'm bringing in 5 million or I'm bringing this number of votes, then what is it on the table? Then there's always those agreements. And that's why you see people have political parties. If you compare with maybe other countries or maybe the developed countries, people normally gather and are elected as per your political party and what people believe in. You either might be a diplomat or a Democrat or Republican. So with those two, then there's what you believe in, and then you come in and bring in your agenda as a political party, and then some of even these countries, you are not elected you as an individual. It is your political party that gives your name that if we win these positions in this region, we are appointing SABINA. But you see what happens in our region and in our constitution, what we have done, I normally go and look for votes myself. And I'll have to hang around a specific political position or a political head. So I'll say, I'm in this party, I am vouching for this president. And so there's always this mpango before we get to the elections. And so unfortunately then, the whole thing happens that if you didn't support the government, and that's why you have seen my people coming in the government, others leaving the government, there's what people agreed. And not only now, even with this government, even before, there was a 207, and we had post-election violence because of what maybe was agreed and what never happened. And that's how we had the Nusu Mukate at 2008. Again, 2017, 2018, we had the handshake. Again, we have now seen 2022, you have the broad-based government. But for me, and I want to speak as Sabina, and I know charity begins at home. And so the Mount Kenya people, they deserve development like any other part of the country. So and we cannot say, that's what I'm saying, that we cannot say that other people do not deserve. I have said like any other part of the country because I've gone to Turkana. I will not still understand why we do not have water in Turkana. And we have the highest aquifer in Turkana. And Turkana County receives a lot of money per year as a county. You see, where are the priorities? And that's why I've said, before even, because when we talk about these CSAs, how many CSAs are there? There are 20-something. How many PSAs are there? So even if we are to have every region having one person, it will still not be enough. We will still not satisfy people. So we are looking at the national cake. But let's start from what comes in our region and what are we doing with it? Because I have a bone to pick with Senate. And for me, I think the formation of Senate should have been professionals, like the way we have the House of Lords, who would come in, who are nominated, who comes in not for a pay, but who comes to give their services and their what they know, their expertise to the government. The role of the Senate is supposed to be to oversight what the governors are doing, to actually look at the money that is going to Turkana. How is that money being used? I don't know the business that the Senate have to be summoning cabinet secretaries who are oversighting the national government, where the Senate has nothing to do with the national government. They are supposed to be looking at the resources that are going to the counties and how those the resources are being done. Look at agriculture is devolved, but have we fully devolved agriculture? No. We have health that is devolved, but have we fully devolved health? No. So why are we still having a lot of say on agriculture and on health coming from the national government where this is a devolved function? That is what the Senate should be fighting for.
But there is conversation that it's the government itself that does not want to
It's not about the government that does not want.
That does not want to
That
let
is
go.
what the
Let me
Senate...
finish.
That is what the Senate should be fighting for.
The national government does not want to let go devolved functions, and that has been pegged on the fact that there is funds allocated to these ministries, hence why they're still domiciled in the national government. But let's talk about delivery to the people, because you've mentioned you as Sabina Chege, what it is you're doing for the people. And one would ask, even our listeners are asking, what have you done for the people of Murang'a?
What have I done for the people? You know, I'm nominated. Whatever I do, I don't do it for the people of Murang'a.
You've been there before as elected
Yes,
member.
I did. And I have my track record is clear for the 10 years with the school I've built, with the children I've taken to school. And I have, even today, even yesterday, I was in Murang'a County. And I was still working for the people. And I have a school now that I'm building that I started from zero from the time I was elected. The school, last year, it took around 20 girls to the university. And I'm still building for them. I'm still helping children. I have my foundation because right now I don't have a CDF or any other kitty. And I talk to my friends. I do fundraisers every year to be able to have that kitty of my SABINA CHEGE Foundation to cater for education of the very less privileged. When I am now currently even working with the government, any opportunity I get from NYS, from teachers, I still give not only students from Murang'a County, but also across the country. Because for me now, I'm nominated and I represent now the entire country. I have gone, I have met people, and that's what I've said. Central Kenya people should thank God because majority of them have never left the region to go and see how the other regions are.
So wouldn't that be an opportunity?
Yes.
And here we're talking about looking at a nationwide, we're looking at Kenya-centric. Usually it has been region-centric. Can we look at a Kenya-centric approach towards how the nation does its politics? Because sadly and unfortunately, and I will say unfortunately, that it has been can our person then be there because then we will benefit? We can't run away from that reality.
I think if you
is
look
it possible to have a situation whereby that experience, which you've said now, you've linked to it a couple of times in this conversation, to say that if you took that privilege, which has been dealt for years, and now looked outward and say this is how it should actually be, and start to climb for the whole of Kenya, is that possible?
It is, because with this broad-based government, even when the president started the tours, he didn't start with Central Kenya. He has gone to other regions, and nobody complained that he went to North Kenya. No, he was in Northern Kenya. He was at the coast for some time. He went to the Nyanza region for some time. Nobody complained that he was there. It is our time now. He's coming to Central Kenya, because I have said the children and the people of Central Kenya, they're also not children of the lesser God, and they also deserve development, and they also deserve the project that started to be finished.
Must the leader come from Central Kenya because of the numbers?
Not necessarily. Central Kenya stood with the president. I think gave him around 80% of their vote, 87% of their votes, and he was not from their region. Even us who are with Baba got around 1.3 million votes from Central Kenya, something that had never happened before.
And yet,
so this was the beginning. This was the beginning.
But let's look at the realities of what happened. It still looked as though they felt, anybody who is running for president or running for, still feels that they need to have somebody from Central Kenya either backing them or on the docket with them.
If it was about Central Kenya person running for president, we had Maure, and they would have voted for him.
Really?
But they went for William Ruto as the president, and they also, the next vote, a huge vote from Central Kenya went to Honorable Raila Amolo Odinga. So I would not say that Central Kenya would not support any other person. And I've said, yes, we might not ignore their numbers. Yes, they also deserve to have development. We also have them. They're also taxpayers. So we cannot say that we will shelve them for the benefit of other region. What we are saying, this is a cake that we all need to share, all of us. But my point was, in Central Kenya, they are members of parliament. They are governors. And not only in Central Kenya, in also other regions where development seem not to be reaching there. Maybe this is a high time we also do an audit. We have had the spirit of us having the county government or devolved government was to make sure that development goes to the grassroots and not necessarily at the national level, that this is where we are dividing the national cake. And so we need to do maybe an audit and ask ourselves, from the time we go to the county government or devolved government, what are the successes? How much money has gone to this county? And what can we see that the governors have done? Because we have also seen, and I think governors need now to be aware, that now we have seen 2 or 3 governors going to jail. And this is a very good start, that we need to be very careful as governors and to know you are the custodian of your people and your region. And even I saw, even when they went to the State House, what is your governor asking for? What is his role? Is he also working closely? Because there are governors who don't see eye to eye with their members of parliament. And this is why I have said, let us not vote, and I will repeat again, emotionally. Because we are voting for Sabina because she supports so and so. Or because, a lot of people, and unfortunately, let me also give, because I'm from Central Kenya, a lot of people who are either backing the president or who are backing the former deputy president, it is because they are looking at 2027, whether I'm going to be voted or not.
Absolutely, whether I'll have a position.
Exactly. Not looking at what will I have done for my people within that time. And yesterday, because I was in a place called Moroka in Kandara, and last week I was in Kiharu, I told people, you need to now have a book and start writing. So that when it comes to 2027, look at that member of parliament, not based on who he followed or supported, because you gave him a job. There was a tagline that Governor Wairimu used, I think in 2022, which in Kikuyu was saying, "Wera warie," which is, let your work speak, or let the work speak for you itself. So that is what people should be looking at, and not only in Central Kenya, but also with members of parliament. We have members of parliament who have been voted in for 20 years, but if you look at their constituencies, there's nothing to show. There are some members who are governors, and I've said, not only in Central, I went now to the rest of Kenya, and you saw there were some governors who were given the positions because they support, or the party leader said, this is the person I want. But this is not the person the people wanted. Or this person has no track record of what he has done for the people. But he was given a position of a governor. Some were given the position of senators. Some were given the position. So even political parties, we need to be fair to our people. Sometimes there are people who will be given party ticket, because maybe of the money or the support or the relationship they have with the party boss, but they have nothing to show.
But it looks as though exactly that happened when we're looking at cabinet reshuffles and reappointments, that there was a direct link between this region and those who were given positions in order to curry some kind of favor, whether it is now or for the future. It looks very clear that that's what happened. In fact, the speculation, it's not even speculation, it could be seen, and it was clear that you said it went around the country, and those who were given positions were given those positions to soothe the region.
Because also remember that it is still in this election where we saw people getting into agreements in terms of percentages.
Not only this, not only this election. Maybe this one was well outspoken, but any other election that I have said that we have had before. If you look at 2002, when there was Kibaki's time when Moi was leaving, you remember when the Prime Minister Raila Odinga supported Kibaki. Immediately when they were getting to 205, there was a split. And you remember there's something that we agreed on that has not been honored. It's only that he never went to public. Then went to 2007, 2013 when Uhuru came in with William Samoei Ruto. It was almost an obvious case that there was an agreement, even on positions. 2017, the same thing. And the whole disagreement with the Jubilee Party came in on 2018 when Uhuru did the handshake with the former Prime Minister Raila Amolo Odinga. And so there was like, somebody has come in and have taken our spaces. And even now with the broad-based, where we have seen some people have really performed very well. I have not done analysis of the new ones that have been appointed recently, but I know Mheshimiwa Okoh, who has now replaced Muturi, which was that was a position for DP. And Mheshimiwa Okoh was the only MP for the Democratic Party. It seems the party has gotten back what maybe they had negotiated for a cabinet secretary. So there are things that we might not be able to change now because of the way we do our things. We will have to wholesomely look at the way we conduct our elections. Currently, we don't have an IBC. We have areas that don't have members of parliament, don't have MCAs. So even ourselves, that's what I've said, we are at halftime. Apart from the politicking and all this realignment that we have done. So now if the politics, we are now at stability.
Right.
Then we need to look at the priority of Kenyans. We need to have IBC, we know now the interviews are ongoing, but that is a body that we need to reconstitute urgently and immediately. Then after that, then we look at our budgets. What are we doing? And I said I'm in the committee, I'm only in one committee of agriculture. I challenged the new minister, who is Minister Mutahi Kagwe. And I told him now, let us not just do the budgets the way, ministry comes in, we are adding 2% or 3% or 10% from our previous year's budget.
Yeah.
But we need to look at Kenya currently. Where are we? What are we looking at? How do we manage to make sure that from the coastal region all the way to the western region, we are able to map up and say, this is where we need to put the money, because then stability is not only on maize. We put a lot of emphasis on maize. So there's fertilizer, there's maize prices and everything, because then there was ugali. Is ugali the only thing then we can be able to feed Kenyans? No. There are other opportunities. The sorghum, there are green grams, and there are areas that can do very well with fruits. And we need now to specifically also give these areas money so that the farmers can be able to develop. We have ADC, we have AFC, which is a corporation that finances the farmers.
Right.
So there are farmers who do not know how they can be able to access to these finances. So we need also the ministers to come out. The people who are the CEOs of corporates, they are paid with the taxpayers' money. They also need to come in and tell people, hey, I am the MD of AFC. This is how you can be able to access to the resources. There is money for farmers. This is what you need to do, so that then it's not only a few people who know how they can be able to access to these resources. And I think with the information, that's why I've said the president has tried, but he seems to be the only one who is speaking. The CSs need to up their game.
How do
And I think he also needs to now read out the Riot Act to his CSs and his PSs, so that they don't just comfortably sit and make deals in the offices, but they need to come out and face the ground and see the reality. Because what happens, let me give you an example of this injection that was about the cows.
Right. The vaccination.
And then there was a whole issue of, I don't know, farting, I don't know what, and I don't know, Bill Gates. And there was a whole hullabaloo about it. And this thing was about the foot and mouth disease. Why couldn't the ministry and the minister then
share the communication
and say, by the way, the foot and mouth disease, we know even when we were small children, we could take our cattle to the cattle dip. There was a time that the veterinary would come in and there was a vaccination. So even human beings at some point, like when there was corona, there was vaccination. So why don't you come out and give a clear communication? Now the president came out, he was kind of upset and saying, if you are not, you are talking against this vaccination, you must be stupid. But because he knew the information. But Kenyans did know that this was about foot and mouth. It was not even known for all regions. It depends with where the cows were and where the regions that were starting with the vaccination. This vaccine was being or is being produced here in Kenya. It had nothing to do with Bill Gates. But what did we do? We made the people in the social media have a free day. They came in and there was a lot of speculation. And you see, communication is key.
Do you see a time, and I mean, hurtling towards, like you said, it's half term, and there's 2 years left in this administration, whereas all we've heard with the moving of the deputy president, former deputy president, Rigathi Gachagua, and all of that moving, where all we've heard is that there needs to be a kingpin coming from the mountain. People need to please the mountain. People need to make sure that the mountain is on the right side of rain. Do we see a time where that high energy is diffused and spread around the country? SABINA CHEGE can say it this morning and say, look, we need everybody in the country. We need the mountain to appreciate what they've seen, because there are parts of the country who don't have that privilege. Do we see a time where that high concentration of attention is diffused around the country and people can start to... I don't expect people to... I expect that people should take where they come from as first. Charity begins at home. That given. Yeah. But do we see a time where this can now finally be diffused, start to be diffused, and say that the person who comes into a position of leadership at whatever level, from the very basic level, is thinking, yes, your area, but then is thinking nationally? Is it possible?
It is possible, but we also need to relook, and that's what I've said. We have to relook at even how we come up with our political parties. Because if you look at even the political parties we have, apart from now UDA that has a national outlook, even Jubilee currently, it's not really central Kenya. There's a lot of people from the northern region, from Isiolo. Jubilee, I think out of 28 members of parliament, you only have 11 who are from central Kenya. So we cannot say now Jubilee party is a central Kenya party. But we need to start at looking at how we formulate our political parties. So let's have what the political party stands for, not where it comes from, or the people who are the leaders, where they come from.
Yet to mention that one of the main reasons why it seems as though Mount Kenya failed is because it didn't have a political party.
Not a political party. It had a political party because Jubilee was a political party. It had UDA that was basically UDA. A lot of people are from Mount Kenya region. But there was no passing of baton. And I will tell you, when the president Uhuru Kenyatta left, there was no one who was left as the person who would organize the people from Mount Kenya. And I've said, from the UDA side, there was this disagreement between the deputy president, who was to become a deputy president. So even when Rigathi Gachagua came in, he was not fully accepted by all the members. But he was a favorite of the president then. From Central Kenya, when Uhuru Kenyatta left, there was no person who came in to stand in. And leadership is key. Even a house, even in your own home, you can't just say, there's no leader. There's a father, there's a mother, there's some structure. And that doesn't mean because you want to dominate, but it just means even the young people who are coming in, they need to look up to someone who can speak to them. And with due respect with my former party leader, Uhuru Kenyatta, even if he retired, and he's not supposed to be practicing politics, he is an elder who can call in people and tell them, this is what I think, this is what I would advise you. Not necessarily engaging or going in and talking to at the rallies and everything and everywhere else. And you can say, this way I think you are heading the right direction, this one you're not heading the right direction. I want to give it up to the president. He looks at people, and I don't want just to say from his region, but he mentors young people. Look at the people like Dendi Nyoro, who made them. It was the president, William Ruto. He came up as a young person. He has had confidence in him. He gave him a chance. Whatever may be happening now, I may not be privy to, but he gave him a chance. I look at the people, young people who have come in. I have been one of the people, even when the president, you go in a function, he will tell you, don't come dressed like this way next time. He will tell you, this is not how to speak. He's a person who will pick a phone call and tell you, nimekusikiza. And he can challenge you. He's a person who will tell you, you have a potential. This is how you need to do. You need to have a stand in politics. You need to do what. He takes his time to mentor and to even explain. Even when this broad-based government came in, He called his people and took time to explain to them and told them, this, I cannot do it alone. We need to get everybody coming in together.
So you need to have a kingpin. The
Not
Central
really.
needs to
It's
have
a
a
leader.
kingpin.
It's a
Somebody
leader.
who
That's
will
why
come
you
and
will, even in a country, you have a president. You must have a person who leads you, because what happens, and especially with us politicians, if we decide everybody then is a leader, it is either my way or the highway. So if I say this and I don't like this other person, we need to have a central place where we can be able to seek, and even to seek for direction, even for us to seek for advice, and come out together and say, so what is our priority? But what has happened currently in Central Kenya, we have everybody now. We don't have really a person who we can say. But now, as I've said, I want to give it up to Kithure Kindiki. He's trying. And he's not doing it for himself, like I want to be me, or because I want to be there 2027. He's doing it for the sake of the unity of the region. And number two, asking then, because our people are complaining, what is it that they are saying? Unajua, there is this thing that people say, tunasikiza ground. So what is the ground saying? And if there are genuine concerns that our people have, then how do we address them? Will we address them trying to demean the government, or will we address them trying to demean and the other people? You know, because there was a whole story about the shareholding. Or will we ask for it, you know, with humility, and this is what we really deserve? So the approach where you don't want to have to push everybody else, where you appreciate that everybody has their share and we also deserve our share. And I think that's the approach now Honorable the Deputy President Kithure Kindiki has done, which I appreciate. And even as we are going to the mountain, I participated for the last day in Nairobi. And I was happy when I went round with the President and the members of Parliament. After the meeting, we had a meeting in State House. And the members of Parliament said, for the first time, there's a president who has gone to visit and to do projects in Nairobi when there's no campaign. Initially, after campaign in Nairobi, people just leave Nairobi and come back. And you know, Nairobi has the highest voter basket.
Right.
Comes back to look for vote again after 5 years. There are very many informal schools in Nairobi. There are many children who are not able to go to school. The president took time, and I will say, I'll give an example of where I went to Tena, and then there was, I went to Makandara.
Yeah.
And there are schools that are going to be built by the government to make sure that those children have an opportunity to go to a
And
government
it has
school.
to be a national outlook, isn't
That's
it?
what
And
I'm
that's
saying.
what we're talking about.
Nairobi is not about anybody. It's everybody
about
is in Nairobi.
everybody.
It's about everybody.
Our
And
time-
so with that, and with the president going in, maybe that he does it differently, because we had our former president staying and not really going to the ground a lot. This president is a president who wakes up in the morning and goes to the ground and have a feel of what everybody is feeling. And I want to thank him, because he has gone to the other regions of Kenya
To do the same
and
thing.
now it is his time to come to Central Kenya. So he will listen to the people of Central Kenya. They have their asking, and I say they deserve it.
And you listen to everybody.
They are
It will be
listening to
interesting to
everybody.
see what this conversation and how this actually plays out in the
Yes.
coming months, because I think it is important that it is diffused to the rest of the country.
But let
It's-
us start with the
it's-
political parties.
Well, and that's another conversation
So
that we
that
can actually have.
so that then we have political parties. What we know, I am voting for this political party, not because it's from my region,
But because it's
of what
ideological
they
in
believe,
nature.
the ideologies.
Absolutely.
So that from there, then we would say we have these people who believe in this,
And
others
these people
believe
who
in this,
The
and then
Honourable
we can vote.
Yeah. The Honourable
Yeah.
SABINA CHEGE has been our guest this hour. Sadly, our time has come
No,
to an
it's all
end.
right.
But, thank you for being here
Thank
this
you for
morning.
hosting me.
Nominated Member of Parliament SABINA CHEGE has been in the hot seat this morning.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.